Humanity had always been underestimated in the galaxy. Other species often laughed at Earth, seeing it as a backwater planet filled with fragile, disorganized creatures. The planet itself seemed ordinary: oceans, forests, deserts, and cities like any other. But appearances were deceiving. Beneath the surface, humans had survived every possible challenge nature could throw at them. Earth was a death world in the strictest sense. From searing deserts to frozen wastelands, from poisonous jungles to turbulent oceans, only the strongest could survive. The planet's harsh conditions had forged humans into a species unlike any other. Every generation had learned to endure extreme conditions, to innovate, to adapt, and to fight when needed. Even their cities, which looked modern and safe, were built with layers of underground shelters, emergency systems, and secret training grounds. This was a planet that had prepared its inhabitants for survival against every conceivable threat, and the galaxy had no idea how dangerous it truly was. In the last few decades, Earth had quietly transformed. It had entered an era of technological advancement, but unlike other planets, it did not rely on sheer industrial power or natural resources alone. Humans combined ingenuity with their natural toughness. They scavenged technology from space, reverse-engineered alien designs when possible, and modified everything to suit their unique environment. Shipyards that looked like ordinary factories to outsiders were actually building highly advanced warships, capable of operating in hostile regions, surviving deadly attacks, and striking with devastating force. Every ship was a product of both human creativity and human endurance, made to be flexible, adaptive, and nearly indestructible in skilled hands. These were not just machines. They were extensions of the human spirit, reflecting the very resilience and cleverness that defined the species. The people who crewed these ships were equally remarkable. Trained from childhood to survive in extreme conditions, humans developed skills that no alien species had experienced. They could endure environments that would kill most others, think under pressure when everything seemed lost, and make decisions in seconds that could turn the tide of a battle. This combination of technology and human skill created a force unlike any other, a fleet that could survive in the most dangerous corners of the galaxy. Despite all of this preparation, humanity remained largely unknown to the wider galaxy. Most alien civilizations assumed that Earth was a minor player, a planet that had not yet achieved real interstellar influence. They underestimated humans, dismissed them, and often ignored them completely. This was a mistake. Humans had no illusions about their position in the universe. They knew their own strength, but they also knew the value of patience. They observed the galaxy quietly, waiting for the moment when they could make their presence felt, and that moment came unexpectedly. Across distant sectors, weaker civilizations were under threat from a ruthless galactic force, an enemy that had the numbers, firepower, and cruelty to conquer entire star systems in weeks. Ships burned, planets were bombarded, and populations faced annihilation. These civilizations sent desperate messages, a collective SOS echoing across space. Their cries reached countless species, but many ignored them, feeling it was not their fight. Then the signal reached Earth. When the SOS first arrived at Earth's planetary council, it caused a mixture of surprise and anticipation. The message detailed the severity of the situation. Entire worlds were being destroyed, fleets were being wiped out, and civilizations on the brink of extinction pleaded for assistance. To most, this would have seemed hopeless. But for humans, it was an opportunity. The council convened, gathering leaders, military strategists, scientists, and intelligence officers. They reviewed every piece of information, analyzed enemy capabilities, and mapped possible routes to respond. It was not just a call for help. It was a test of Earth's readiness, a chance to show the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. After careful deliberation, the council activated what they had long prepared, the Deathworlder fleet. This fleet, designed to operate in extreme conditions and handle the deadliest threats, was humanity's secret weapon. It was the culmination of decades of planning, training, and technological development. Hidden from the galaxy until now, preparations for deployment were intense. Every ship had to be fueled, armed, and supplied for a mission unlike any before. The fleet was a mix of massive battleships, agile assault crafts, stealth reconnaissance vessels, and heavily modified command ships. Each crew underwent final readiness checks. Human pilots, navigators, engineers, and soldiers checked their gear repeatedly, knowing that failure was not an option. Despite confidence in their training, there was tension. They were venturing into unknown space, facing enemies far more experienced in interstellar warfare. No one could be certain of what awaited them. But humans were not easily intimidated. The very nature of their survival instincts, honed through generations on a planet that challenged life itself at every turn, gave them courage and resolve. Fear was present, but it was paired with determination and an unshakable belief in their ability to endure and overcome. As the fleet prepared to depart, the human leaders also considered the broader implications. The galaxy had always underestimated them, and this mission could change everything. It was more than a rescue operation. It was a declaration that humans were a force to be reckoned with. Still, the council emphasized caution and strategy. They studied every known detail of the enemy, reviewed star charts, and devised multiple contingency plans. Nothing was left to chance. Every possible outcome was considered, every weakness accounted for, and every strength left. Humans were not acting recklessly. They were acting with a precision and foresight that had allowed their species to survive even the harshest environments. They understood the stakes. Failure meant not just the loss of allies in distant systems, but also the potential exposure of Earth to enemies who might then see the planet as a target. Success, however, promised to establish humanity as a central power in the galaxy, one that could protect itself and others with unmatched skill and determination. Finally, the day came for the fleet to depart. The ships rose from hidden shipyards, leaving behind the familiar surface of Earth and venturing into the black unknown. The launch itself was a spectacle. Billions watched as the Deathworlder fleet, a shimmering array of advanced vessels, streaked into space with precision and power. There was a sense of awe, both among humans and in distant monitoring stations that happened to witness the departure. The fleet's mission was clear: reach the SOS coordinates, assess the situation, and strike with overwhelming force if necessary. Every crew member understood that they were representing not just Earth, but the human species as a whole. Every action taken in the coming days could redefine the galaxy's perception of humanity. This was more than a mission. It was the moment when centuries of survival, adaptation, and ingenuity would be tested on an unprecedented scale. Even as the fleet traveled through the void of space, humans reflected on their unique preparation. They were aware of the irony. The very hardships that had made Earth seem inhospitable to outsiders were the same factors that forged the strongest warriors in the galaxy. Where other species sought comfort, humans had sought challenge. Where others relied solely on technology, humans relied on both technology and themselves. Their resilience was not manufactured, it was lived, experienced through generations of survival against every imaginable danger. The galaxy might see them as underdogs, but humans knew that true strength often came from facing the impossible and refusing to give in. The SOS response was the first real test of this strength beyond their own planet, and the anticipation among the fleet was palpable. By the time they neared the coordinates of the Deathworlder fleet had already demonstrated the first signs of its true potential. Every system functioned flawlessly, every crew member was alert, and the ships moved with coordination that belied their complexity. Humans communicated with each other through a mixture of advanced AI systems and personal experience, adapting quickly to the challenges of deep space navigation. They had been trained to improvise, to respond to sudden threats, and to act decisively when options were limited. This combination of planning, preparation, and innate adaptability was what set the fleet apart from any other force the galaxy had seen. It was a force born not from arrogance, but from necessity, not from conquest, but from survival. The humans were ready to confront whatever awaited them, knowing that their success could change the galaxy forever. And so, Earth's secret power, long hidden behind a veil of perceived weakness, moved steadily into the unknown. Every crew member carried the legacy of their planet, a history of struggle, endurance, and triumph over the harshest conditions imaginable. The galaxy had called for help, and humans had answered. But this was only the beginning. Beyond the cold stars and distant suns lay threats that dwarfed anything humanity had faced before. Yet, with every heartbeat, every system check, and every glance toward the distant signals of allies in need, the humans of the Deathworlder fleet carried with them the unspoken truth. Survival was not just their instinct, it was their identity, and nothing, no enemy, no challenge, no force in the universe would make them falter. The journey ahead was uncertain, the battles would be fierce, and the cost would be high. But Earth's warriors were ready. They had been forged by a Deathworld, trained by adversity, and driven by the knowledge that the galaxy had never truly seen what humans were capable of, and soon it would witness it in full. As the Deathworlder fleet moved deeper into space, the human crews felt the weight of the mission pressing on them. The SOS from distant star systems was more than a plea. It was a desperate cry from civilizations that had seen their worlds torn apart, their fleets destroyed, and their people slaughtered. Each message carried stories of loss, fear, and hopelessness. For the humans, it was a challenge unlike anything they had faced before. Their task was not only to reach these systems but to do so in a way that would save as many lives as possible, while confronting a formidable enemy who had already proven capable of annihilating entire fleets. The enormity of the situation was clear to every commander, pilot, and soldier. They knew that mistakes could cost countless lives and that failure was not an option. Yet, humans were uniquely suited to this challenge. Years of training on a Deathworld dealing with extreme environments had prepared them to endure stress and adapt to crises in ways other species could not understand. The fleet's journey was filled with constant preparation. Each ship had to be maintained meticulously, every system checked repeatedly, and every weapon calibrated to perfection. Engineers worked tirelessly, often sleeping in short shifts while their machines hummed and glowed with alien technology reverse-engineered and adapted for human use. Pilots drilled simulations of possible battle scenarios, practicing evasive maneuvers, combat formations, and emergency protocols. Soldiers reviewed tactics for boarding actions, defending key positions, and rescuing civilians under hostile fire, even though Earth had trained them for extreme conditions. The vastness of space and the unknown tactics of their enemy demanded constant vigilance. Communication between ships was carefully monitored. Every message was encoded, every movement calculated to ensure the fleet remained coordinated while maintaining the element of surprise. Humans relied on both technology and instinct, blending them seamlessly to create a force that was flexible, responsive, and unpredictable. The first signs of the challenge arrived as they entered contested space. Long-range sensors picked up enemy patrols ahead. Unlike anything humans had trained for on simulations, these enemies moved in coordinated groups, their ships heavily armed and equipped with advanced defensive systems. They were not merely aggressive, they were intelligent, analyzing patterns, predicting moves, and responding quickly to threats. The human commanders immediately recognized the need for careful strategy. A direct assault would be suicide. The fleet had to strike with precision, exploit weaknesses, and adapt quickly to changing conditions. Every captain held back some energy, every crew prepared to improvise. The humans' advantage was not raw numbers but adaptability, courage, and innovation traits forged by life on Earth's harshest terrains. As they approached the first target systems, the fleet encountered scattered signals from destroyed worlds. Planets were burned, cities in ruin, and survivors clinging desperately to whatever shelter they could find. Humans understood immediately what was at stake. This was not a simple military mission. It was a rescue operation on an unprecedented scale. Civilians were trapped, enemy forces were entrenched, and there was no time for hesitation. The first rescue attempts were tense. Shuttles were dispatched to evacuate survivors under enemy fire. Pilots had to navigate asteroid fields and debris left from previous attacks. On some planets, the environment itself posed dangers: toxic atmospheres, extreme gravity, or unstable terrain. Humans had been trained to endure harsh conditions, but the combination of enemy aggression and hostile worlds tested every limit of their skills. Still, they pressed on. Every successful evacuation boosted morale, every life saved reinforced the belief that they could succeed. Coordination became a central challenge as the fleet moved from system to system. Enemy forces were scattered but well organized, and intelligence was limited. Humans had to gather information quickly, decide whether to engage or avoid, and anticipate enemy reinforcements. Commanders held constant briefings, analyzing reports from reconnaissance drones, intercepted communications, and satellite scans. Decisions had to be made in minutes, sometimes seconds. Mistakes could lead to entire units being destroyed or civilians being lost. Yet, despite the pressure, the human crews remained focused. Their training had taught them to prioritize, to act decisively under stress, and to remain calm when chaos surrounded them. This combination of discipline and instinct allowed them to turn seemingly impossible situations into opportunities for success. The enemy was relentless. In several early encounters, humans witnessed the full scope of the enemy's ruthlessness. Starports were defended with automated turrets, planetary defenses included orbiting battle stations, and elite enemy squads pursued fleeing survivors with deadly precision. These forces did not hesitate, did not show mercy, and attacked without warning. For the humans, this was a stark reminder of what was at stake. Every encounter was a test, not only of skill but also of endurance, adaptability, and courage. Ships were damaged, crews exhausted, and systems strained. Yet humans responded with the flexibility that had been their hallmark for generations. Engineers improvised repairs with limited resources. Pilots executed maneuvers no simulation had ever replicated. And soldiers found ways to outsmart enemies far larger and more powerful than themselves. One of the most critical challenges came from coordinating multiple rescue operations while keeping the fleet safe from ambush. Some systems contained hidden enemy ships, waiting to strike when humans were distracted. Others had civilian populations trapped under heavy defenses that required careful planning to extract. The human commanders developed a system of rotating priorities, sending diversionary forces to draw enemy attention while smaller strike teams rescued survivors. This required exact timing, precise communication, and complete trust between crews. Mistakes could be catastrophic, but the humans' history of surviving deadly conditions on Earth had taught them how to trust instincts, adapt plans on the fly, and overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. Every success reinforced their confidence. Every failure taught them lessons they immediately applied in subsequent missions. That is, they continued. The humans faced internal challenges as well. Fatigue set in, nerves frayed, and the mental toll of constant danger weighed on every crew member. Long hours, limited rest, and the stress of witnessing destruction pushed them to their limits. Commanders rotated duties, encouraged rest where possible, and relied on the human ability to push beyond pain and fear. Psychological resilience became as important as physical skill. Teams learned to rely on each other, share burdens, and maintain morale despite the constant threat of enemy action. The bond between crew members became a critical factor in their effectiveness. In many ways, the strength of humanity was not just in technology or tactics but in the relationships, trust, and loyalty forged under extreme pressure. The first weeks of the mission saw both victories and setbacks. Some rescue operations succeeded beyond expectations. Civilians were evacuated, and small enemy units defeated with precision strikes. But other attempts failed. Entire stores were destroyed before humans could intervene, and some civilian groups were lost despite their best efforts. Each setback was analyzed, lessons were learned, and strategies refined. Humans did not allow failure to discourage them. Their ability to learn quickly, adapt, and innovate in real time was a key advantage over an enemy that relied heavily on rigid tactics and brute force. Every mission strengthened the fleet's cohesion, sharpened their tactics, and built the confidence that they could face even larger challenges ahead. The rising tension reached a climax when the fleet received reports of a major enemy concentration near a densely populated system. Thousands of civilians were trapped, and the enemy forces outnumbered the humans several times over. It was the ultimate test of strategy, courage, and endurance. Commanders held emergency meetings, analyzing the risks and planning multiple scenarios. Every crew member knew the stakes. Failure would mean massive loss of life. Success could save thousands and deliver a decisive blow against the enemy. The fleet prepared meticulously, deploying reconnaissance probes, positioning strike teams, and coordinating with smaller allied forces where available. Humans relied on both their advanced technology and their innate ability to improvise, adapt, and exploit opportunities. As the fleet approached the contested system, the crews felt a mix of fear and anticipation. The challenge ahead was the largest they had faced, requiring every skill, every bit of ingenuity, and every ounce of courage they possessed. The SOS signals had brought them here, and the humans were determined to answer them. Despite the overwhelming odds, they pressed forward. Their determination was fueled not only by a sense of duty but also by a deep understanding of who they were. A species forged by hardship, honed by adversity, and strengthened by generations of survival in a death. The rising challenge was not just a test of military power. It was a test of human spirit, ingenuity, and resilience, and humanity was ready to face it no matter the cost. By the time the Deathworlder fleet neared the system, every crew member had been tested in countless ways. They had faced hostile environments, enemy patrols, and logistical challenges that seemed impossible. They had learned to trust their instincts, adapt on the fly, and remain calm under extreme pressure. The fleet moved with precision, confidence, and a growing sense of unity. Every human understood the importance of the mission. They were not just saving lives. They were demonstrating the strength of a species that had long been underestimated. The rising challenge had pushed them to their limits, but it had also prepared them for the escalation that was about to come, when the full might of the enemy would reveal itself, and the fate of entire star systems would hang in the balance. The human crews knew that this was only the beginning. Every calculation, every maneuver, and every decision would matter in the battles to come. The rising challenge had tested their skills, coordination, and courage, and had strengthened their resolve. Humans were ready to confront the unknown, confident that their adaptability, ingenuity, and unbreakable spirit would guide them through the dangers ahead. The galaxy had called for help, and humanity had answered. The challenge had risen, and with it, the stage was set for moments of extreme danger, decisive action, and unparalleled heroism. The human fleet had traveled far, navigating through dangerous stretches of space, evading patrols, and rescuing countless civilians, yet nothing could have prepared them for what lay ahead. As they approached the main enemy stronghold, sensors began detecting enormous concentrations of hostile ships, fortified space stations, and energy barriers that pulsed with lethal intensity. This was not a simple engagement. It was the heart of the enemy's operation, the command center that had orchestrated countless attacks across the galaxy. The fleet commanders understood immediately that the coming confrontation would be the most dangerous challenge humanity had ever faced. Every system had to function perfectly, every crew member had to act without hesitation, and every maneuver had to be executed flawlessly. There was no room for mistakes. The escalation began subtly at first. Enemy forces, alerted by earlier human movements, began probing the fleet's perimeter. Fast attack crafts zipped between asteroid belts, testing human defenses, and electronic jamming disrupted communications at critical moments. The human crews responded quickly, but each encounter highlighted the enemy's intelligence and adaptability. These were not mindless aggressors. They observed, learned, and adapted to every human tactic. The initial skirmishes, while small in scale compared to the battles to come, were enough to reveal the enormity of the challenge. Humans realized that brute force alone would not win this war. Their survival depended on creativity, timing, and the ability to exploit weaknesses that even the enemy did not fully understand. As the fleet moved closer to the heart of the enemy cluster, the situation intensified. Massive battle cruisers appeared, forming impenetrable formations around critical planets and space stations. Energy shields shimmered, repelling conventional attacks, while automated defense drones launched with deadly precision. The humans faced overwhelming odds, their fleet outnumbered and outgunned. Panic was never an option. Instead, commanders called upon every ounce of strategy, experience, and instinct they possessed. They divided the fleet into specialized groups: diversion teams to draw enemy attention, assault teams to strike weak points, and rescue teams to extract civilians trapped on besieged planets. Every movement was coordinated to the second, relying on split-second decisions and a deep understanding of human adaptability. The first major engagement erupted as one of the diversionary teams drew the enemy's attention toward a series of nearby asteroid belts. Enemy cruisers pursued aggressively, firing energy beams and missiles, while humans maneuvered with precision learned from years of training in extreme conditions. Pilots used every possible advantage, weaving between asteroids, exploiting gravitational anomalies, and employing advanced cloaking techniques. Ships that seemed slow and cumbersome in simulations moved like shadows through space, striking unpredictably and retreating before the enemy could respond effectively. Every attack, every maneuver, demonstrated not just technological superiority, but the human ability to think and react in ways that machines or predictable enemies could not anticipate. Meanwhile, the assault teams prepared to infiltrate the enemy command cluster. Their mission was dangerous beyond imagination: penetrate heavily defended zones, disable the central communication hub, and cripple the enemy fleet's coordination. Every ship in the assault group had been modified for this precise purpose, equipped with stealth technology, reinforced hulls, and experimental weaponry. The crews, trained for high-stress environments and extreme adversity, remained calm despite the knowledge that failure meant near-certain destruction. They knew that even a single mistake could cascade into disaster, yet they moved forward with focus and determination, relying on both training and intuition to guide them. That as the humans approached the command cluster, enemy forces reacted swiftly. Swarms of drones attacked from multiple directions. Energy turrets targeted every incoming vessel, and elite boarding units attempted to intercept human crews. The engagement became chaotic and intense, with laser fire streaking across space, explosions rocking the hulls of ships, and alarms blaring in every control room. Every second counted. Engineers patched breaches in real time. Pilots executed maneuvers no simulation had ever taught, and soldiers engaged in boarding actions where survival depended on speed, intelligence, and instinct. The human's ability to adapt under pressure was tested like never before. Every failure, every success, immediately influenced the next move, creating a constantly evolving battlefield where only the most resourceful could survive. At the center of the cluster, the lead human warship approached its objective, the command hub. This massive structure was heavily defended, surrounded by layered shields and patrolled by the most experienced enemy units. Sensors indicated weak points, but reaching them required navigating a gauntlet of fire and avoiding detection. The ship's captain, relying on both experience and gut instinct, plotted a course that wove between enemy ships, used debris fields for cover, and exploited gaps in shield coverage. The crew, trained for years on Earth in conditions where split-second decisions meant life or death, executed the plan flawlessly. Every maneuver was precise, every calculation immediate, and every action dependent on perfect coordination between departments. Inside the command hub, humans encountered resistance unlike anything they had faced before. Elite enemy squads engaged in brutal close-quarters combat. Automated defense systems targeted any unauthorized movement, and the environment itself was designed to be deadly, with collapsing walkways, energy traps, and sudden hazards at every turn. Yet humans adapted instantly. Soldiers used environmental advantages, improvised weapons from whatever was available, and coordinated attacks with machine-like efficiency. Every enemy they faced revealed another challenge, another problem to solve in the moment. The combination of intelligence, training, and adaptability allowed them to overcome obstacles that would have seemed insurmountable to any other species back in space. The human fleet coordinated attacks with precision. Diversion teams lured enemy ships away, creating openings for the assault ships to strike critical targets. Rescue teams maneuvered through battle zones to extract civilians trapped on threatened planets. Every action required perfect timing and absolute trust between crews. The enemy, though numerous and powerful, was repeatedly out. Humans exploited weaknesses that were invisible to conventional tactics, striking at points that disrupted coordination, communication, and morale. The intensity of the battle reached its peak as enemy reinforcements arrived, forcing humans to adapt constantly, changing strategies in real time to maintain the upper hand. Casualties occurred, but every loss reinforced the fleet's determination. Engineers worked under fire to repair damaged systems. Medical crews triaged wounded personnel, and pilots continued missions despite fatigue and danger. The human ability to function under extreme stress, honed through generations of survival on a harsh planet, proved to be the decisive factor. Every crew member understood that giving in to fear or hesitation would mean failure, and failure was not acceptable. Humans did not retreat. They advanced with relentless precision, turning the chaos of battle into an opportunity to strike where the enemy was weakest. The critical moment came when the lead warship finally reached the command hub's core. Enemy defenses intensified, shields flared, and automated turrets fired relentlessly. Yet the crew, synchronized in their efforts, executed a daring plan. They disabled key systems, overrode protective measures, and prepared a targeted strike designed to cripple the entire command network. Seconds stretched into eternity as energy beams converged on the hub's central node. Explosions shook the vessel, and alarms screamed throughout the ship. The crew worked in perfect unison, each individual performing their role with precision that was almost instinctual. The strike hit its mark, sending cascading failures throughout the enemy formation. Communication channels collapsed, defensive systems faltered, and the enemy fleet's coordination broke down completely as the hub was destroyed. The human fleet seized the advantage. Enemy forces, confused and disorganized, were forced into retreat or surrender. The diversion teams completed their maneuvers, the rescue teams secured civilians, and the assault teams returned to the fleet with critical intelligence about remaining enemy positions. The humans had turned what seemed like an impossible engagement into a decisive victory. Their combination of preparation, adaptability, courage, and ingenuity had overcome overwhelming odds. Every crew member, despite exhaustion and injuries, felt the exhilaration of having accomplished what no one else could. They had faced the critical moment of the mission, survived, and emerged victorious. Even as the battle subsided, humans remained vigilant. They knew that victory here did not mean the war was over. The enemy would regroup, reinforce, and strike again. Yet the critical moment had proven a fundamental truth. Humans were capable of feats that no other species had imagined. Their ability to adapt, to think creatively under pressure, and to endure conditions that would break most others had turned the tide in their favor. The galaxy had witnessed, for the first time, the true strength of a species long underestimated. Humans had survived the escalation, confronted the critical moment, and emerged as a force that demanded respect, fear, and acknowledgement. On the aftermath of the battle, the fleet assessed the damage, tended to the wounded, and began planning for the next phase. Ships were repaired, strategies refined, and lessons learned analyzed for future engagements. Every crew member carried the memory of the critical moment, the tension, the danger, and the extraordinary achievements that had allowed them to prevail. It was a moment that would be remembered for generations, a defining point in humanity's emergence as a galactic power. The escalation had tested every limit, but it had also revealed the true potential of humans, a combination of resilience, intelligence, adaptability, and courage that no enemy could predict or overcome. Easily, the human fleet, though battered and exhausted, remained ready. The critical moment had passed, but the mission continued. Humans understood that this engagement was only a part of a larger struggle, one that would determine the fate of entire civilizations. Yet, they moved forward with confidence, knowing that their actions in the face of impossible odds had already changed the course of the battle. Their reputation, once unknown and underestimated, was now a powerful symbol across the galaxy. The escalation had proven that humans were no longer just survivors. They were warriors, innovators, and saviors capable of confronting the deadliest threats the universe could produce. The battle had reached a turning point. After days of relentless fighting, the human fleet had seized the advantage, but the task was far from over. The enemy, though weakened, was still dangerous. Their remaining forces scattered yet capable of mounting deadly counterattacks. The human commanders knew that hesitation or complacency could undo all their hard-fought gains. Every crew member remained alert, every system operational, and every plan flexible, prepared for any sudden threat that might emerge. It was in these tense hours that the resolution of the conflict began to take shape. Humans were no longer merely responding to the SOS, they were taking the fight to the enemy. Moving from survival to decisive victory, the fleet moved in coordinated waves. Assault teams, having already disrupted the enemy command hub, now targeted remaining strategic installations. Enemy communication relays were systematically disabled. Energy shields of key defense stations were breached, and supply lines were cut off. The humans used both technology and tactical brilliance. They didn't just destroy enemy ships, they forced the remaining forces into disarray, creating confusion that prevented organized counterattacks. Pilots and soldiers had to think constantly, improvising strategies to exploit vulnerabilities, while engineers patched up damaged systems and modified weapons for maximum efficiency. The pace was grueling, but human endurance, honed by generations on Earth's harshest terrains, allowed them to keep going where others would have faltered. Civilians who had been trapped for days were now being evacuated under the protection of human squads. Rescue operations were coordinated with extreme precision. Dropships darted in and out of contested zones, moving quickly to avoid detection while picking up survivors. Pilots had to navigate dangerous debris fields, dodging enemy fire and surviving unstable planetary conditions. Soldiers protected the evacuees, forming mobile defensive perimeters, using cover, and improvising defensive measures as needed. It was a delicate balance. The humans had to maintain offensive momentum to keep the enemy on the defensive, while simultaneously ensuring that as many innocent lives as possible were saved. This dual focus was uniquely human. No other species could manage both objectives with such adaptability and precision under extreme stress. The enemy attempted to rally, sending reinforcements from nearby systems. Massive cruisers and squadrons of attack crafts tried to encircle human forces, hoping to trap them in a devastating pincer maneuver. The humans, however, anticipated this possibility. Using intelligence gathered from reconnaissance drones and captured data, they had already positioned diversionary teams to intercept reinforcements, drawing the enemy away from key objectives. The fleet moved like a living organism, each ship, crew, and unit anticipating the next move, responding instinctively and exploiting openings. The enemy, despite its superior numbers in some areas, found itself constantly outmaneuvered, forced into defensive reactions that prevented them from launching effective attacks. The turning point came during a massive confrontation near the largest enemy stronghold. The hub of operations, heavily fortified, seemed almost impossible to breach. Enemy defenses included multiple layers of shields, automated turrets, and elite boarding squads ready to intercept intruders. Yet, the human commanders refused to retreat. They studied the fortifications carefully, identified weak points, and devised a plan that combined deception, precision strikes, and synchronized assaults. Ships moved in coordinated patterns to draw fire away from key points, while stealth units infiltrated the outer defenses, disabling shields and communication networks. Every action was timed perfectly, creating openings that allowed the main assault force to strike at the heart of the stronghold. Inside the enemy base, the fighting was brutal. Soldiers faced relentless resistance, from automated defense systems to highly trained enemy units. The humans, however, were relentless. They had trained for years to survive extreme conditions and deadly encounters, and now that experience became the decisive factor. They used their environment to their advantage, improvising weapons, creating distractions, and coordinating attacks with precision. Every obstacle was turned into an opportunity. Where the enemy expected panic or hesitation, they found determination, focus, and ingenuity. The lead human squads disabled critical systems, causing cascading failures in the enemy's defensive network. Explosions rocked the stronghold, alarms blared, and chaos spread throughout the enemy forces. Back in space, the fleet capitalized on the disruption. Enemy ships that had once moved in tight formations now found themselves isolated and vulnerable. Human pilots struck with precision, targeting weak points in hulls, engines, and weapon systems. Assault teams cut off reinforcements and captured enemy technology that could be repurposed. Engineers repaired damage on the fly, modifying shields and weapons to respond to unexpected threats. Commanders coordinated every movement with calm efficiency, turning the confusion among enemy ranks into a decisive advantage. Even when the enemy attempted to regroup, the humans anticipated their moves, countering each effort with speed and intelligence that left their opponents off balance. The climax of the resolution came as the lead human warship reached the core of the enemy stronghold. This massive command station controlled not only military operations but also logistics, communications, and planetary defenses. Destroying it would cripple the enemy's ability to fight effectively. The crew of the warship, though exhausted from days of continuous engagement, worked with remarkable precision. Pilots maneuvered the vessel through treacherous zones, avoiding concentrated fire while targeting weak points in the station's hull. Soldiers and engineers coordinated attacks on internal systems, bypassing security protocols and disabling energy shields. The tension was unbearable, but the humans remained focused. Every second counted, and every action could determine the outcome of the conflict. Finally, the decisive strike was executed. Explosions tore through the command station. Systems collapsed, and enemy ships lost coordination almost instantly. Communication channels went dark, defense turrets failed, and the morale of enemy forces plummeted. With the hub neutralized, remaining enemy forces began to retreat in disarray. The human fleet, though battered and exhausted, maintained pressure, ensuring that no enemy units could reorganize. Civilians trapped on nearby planets were evacuated safely, and key strategic positions were secured. The culmination of strategy, courage, and endurance had paid off. Humans had not only survived overwhelming odds, but had turned the tide completely in their favor. Victory was not immediate peace. The humans continued to secure systems, ensuring that the enemy could not mount a counterattack. They monitored retreating forces, captured critical intelligence, and repaired damaged infrastructure wherever possible. The fleet moved systematically, clearing space routes, stabilizing planets, and providing humanitarian aid to those affected by the conflict. Every action reinforced the message that humans were not merely a fighting force, they were protectors, capable of saving lives and restoring order under the most challenging circumstances. The galaxy began to notice. Reports of the Deathworlder fleet's effectiveness spread quickly, and species that had once dismissed Earth as insignificant now looked upon humans with awe, respect, and caution. For the human crews, the resolution brought both relief and reflection. They had faced unimaginable challenges, witnessed destruction and suffering, and endured exhaustion and danger. Yet, their perseverance had turned despair into hope, chaos into order, and weakness into strength. Every crew member had contributed, every plan had been tested, and every obstacle had been overcome through ingenuity, courage, and teamwork. The human fleet had demonstrated that preparation, adaptability, and determination could triumph over even the most powerful adversaries. This victory would not only save countless lives but also redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. Leaders on Earth received reports of the fleet's success with a mixture of pride and cautious optimism. The mission had proven that humans could operate effectively on a galactic scale, confronting enemies far beyond what any other species had achieved. It also reinforced the understanding that Earth's strength lay not just in technology but in the resilience, intelligence, and courage of its people. Citizens on the planet celebrated from afar, knowing that their species had answered the call for help when others hesitated, risking everything to save lives and restore balance in a turbulent galaxy. The resolution phase also provided important lessons. Humans learned the value of coordination across multiple fronts, the effectiveness of combining improvisation with advanced technology, and the importance of maintaining morale under extreme stress. Each success and failure was carefully analyzed to improve strategies for future engagements. These lessons ensured that the human fleet would not only remain effective in subsequent battles but could also anticipate challenges and adapt more quickly than any other species. The experience reinforced a core principle in the galaxy. Survival depended on more than firepower. It required intelligence, flexibility, and the unyielding will to overcome impossible odds. As the enemy forces scattered and the last civilians were evacuated, humans took stock of the broader impact of their actions. Entire systems had been saved, countless lives preserved, and the threat of immediate annihilation removed. The human fleet had proven that they could operate decisively, strike precisely, and protect the vulnerable. News of their victory spread, reshaping the perception of Earth across the stars. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as primitive and weak. Now, they had demonstrated that their strength was not measured by appearances or numbers but by their courage, ingenuity, and determination. The resolution of this battle marked the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history, with humans emerging as a central power capable of influencing the balance of entire star systems. Even in the aftermath, humans remained vigilant. The enemy had not been completely destroyed, and remnants still posed potential threats. Yet the decisive actions taken during the resolution ensured that these forces would never regain the cohesion or power necessary to challenge humanity on the same scale. The fleet's success had provided not only tactical victory but also strategic advantage, allowing humans to secure their position in the galaxy and prepare for any future conflicts. This careful balance of offense, defense, and humanitarian action exemplified the unique qualities of humanity: resilience, adaptability, and the unwavering drive to protect and prevail. Humans had faced their most extreme challenge yet and had emerged victorious, earning both respect and recognition across the galaxy. Every crew member understood that this victory was more than military. It was a statement of identity, a declaration that humans could survive, adapt, and triumph against any force, no matter how powerful. The combination of skill, courage, and ingenuity had created a turning point, not as in the immediate conflict but in the ongoing story of humanity's rise among the stars. The galaxy would remember this moment, and humans themselves would carry its lessons forward into every battle yet to come. The battle had ended, but the echoes of its intensity still resonated across space. The Deathworlder fleet, though battered and exhausted, returned to a galaxy forever changed by their actions. Humans had not only confronted the enemy and succeeded but had also demonstrated something far greater: the strength, resilience, and ingenuity of their species. As ships glided back toward Earth and nearby allied systems, crew members reflected on the events they had just endured. The sense of accomplishment was immense, yet it was tempered by the gravity of what they had witnessed. Entire civilizations had been on the brink of destruction, and only the decisive action of humans had prevented catastrophe. The aftermath of this operation would shape the galaxy for generations, and the humans themselves were acutely aware of the responsibility that came with such power. Returning from battle was not simple. Ships bore the marks of combat: scorched hulls, damaged shields, and systems pushed to their limits. Crew members were physically drained, many nursing injuries and exhaustion from days of continuous fighting. Yet even in this state, humans maintained their vigilance. Engineers worked tirelessly to repair damage, often improvising repairs with limited resources, while pilots conducted system checks to ensure every vessel was capable of future operations. Soldiers and security teams remained alert, patrolling corridors and maintaining defensive readiness. Humans were never complacent. Their training and culture had taught them that survival depended on constant awareness, preparation, and adaptability. Even in victory, they knew the galaxy could present new threats at any moment. One of the first challenges of the aftermath was assessing the damage across the systems they had saved. Planets that had faced invasion or bombardment required immediate attention. The human fleet coordinated with local authorities and remaining defense forces to stabilize these worlds. Emergency aid was delivered, medical teams treated the wounded, and temporary shelters were established for those who had lost homes. In some cases, humans worked alongside alien allies to rebuild infrastructure and restore order. The process was painstaking and required careful planning, as resources were limited and the threat of remaining enemy units loomed. Yet, the humans approached each task with the same precision and determination they had used in combat. Efficiency and compassion went hand in hand, reflecting a species capable of both extreme resilience and care for others. The psychological aftermath was equally important. Crew members grappled with the trauma of battle, the loss of comrades, and the sheer scale of destruction they had witnessed. Debriefings and counseling sessions were established aboard the fleet and at temporary bases to help individuals process their experiences. These sessions encouraged reflection, mutual support, and mental recovery. Leaders emphasized the importance of learning from the experience while acknowledging the emotional toll it had taken. Humans, accustomed to facing harsh realities and extreme adversity, were able to draw strength from shared hardship. The bonds forged in the crucible of combat became a foundation for resilience, camaraderie, and unity, ensuring that the fleet remained a cohesive force capable of facing future challenges. As the fleet returned to Earth, the planet itself responded to the historic events. Citizens watched with awe as the Deathworlder fleet re-entered orbit, their ships bearing the scars of battle and the signs of extraordinary achievement. News spread rapidly across the globe, detailing the human response to the Galactic SOS, the battles fought, and the countless lives saved. For many, the realization was profound. Earth, long underestimated and dismissed as a backwater planet, had demonstrated an unprecedented level of strength and capability. Public sentiment was a mix of pride, relief, and curiosity. The people of Earth began to understand the full extent of their species' potential, and the fleet's return sparked a renewed sense of unity, purpose, and confidence. Human leadership took the aftermath seriously. The Planetary Council held a series of evaluations and meetings to assess the broader implications of the fleet's success. Strategic plans were updated to incorporate lessons learned, and new protocols were developed to ensure readiness for future threats. One key takeaway was the recognition of humanity's unique advantage: adaptability. Unlike other species that relied solely on pre-established tactics, humans had demonstrated the ability to innovate, improvise, and respond to unexpected challenges with remarkable efficiency. This trait became the cornerstone of future planning, ensuring that Earth remained prepared not only to defend itself but also to assist allies in influence. Galactic affairs, strategically, diplomatic consequences were also profound. Alien civilizations that had once dismissed humanity now approached with a mixture of caution and respect. Messages of gratitude poured in from the worlds that had been saved. While more powerful species began to reevaluate Earth's role in the galaxy, humans had established a reputation for courage, ingenuity, and decisive action. Their ability to operate effectively in extreme conditions, rescue civilian populations, and neutralize a formidable enemy earned them recognition as a serious power. Diplomats, scholars, and strategists on Earth began planning new alliances, trade agreements, and cooperative ventures, recognizing that humanity's rising influence could not be ignored at the individual level. Reflection was personal and profound. Crew members thought about the lives they had saved, the battles they had fought, and the sacrifices made along the way. Some were haunted by the loss of comrades or the destruction they had witnessed, while others were inspired by the extraordinary courage and ingenuity displayed by their peers. Training, discipline, and the shared experience of survival had created a deep sense of trust and admiration among the fleet. These reflections reinforced a fundamental truth about humanity. Their strength was not just technological or numerical but rooted in resilience, creativity, and the bonds forged through adversity. The aftermath also prompted introspection about the broader nature of power and responsibility. Humans had intervened in a situation that no other species dared to confront, saving countless lives in the process. With this success came recognition of the ethical and strategic responsibilities inherent in their newfound status. Leaders emphasized that power must be balanced with prudence, that intervention should be guided by careful consideration, and that humanity's actions would shape the galaxy for generations. The experience had taught them that strength alone was not enough. Wisdom, foresight, and ethical judgment were equally important. Technological and strategic advancements were another key outcome of the aftermath. Human engineers analyzed captured enemy technology, integrating useful innovations into existing systems. Pilots and tactical officers reviewed battle logs to refine maneuvers, while scientists studied the performance of ships, weapons, and defensive systems under extreme conditions. This knowledge was shared across the fleet, ensuring that every unit was better prepared for future challenges. The process of reflection and improvement was continuous, demonstrating the uniquely human ability to learn rapidly from experience and adapt in ways that gave them an enduring edge over potential adversaries. Humanity's victory also had a symbolic impact on the galaxy. The story of the Deathworlder fleet became a legend, retold by the civilizations that had been saved and by neutral observers alike. Humans were no longer seen as weak, insignificant, or peripheral. Their willingness to respond to a desperate SOS, combined with their effectiveness in battle and their capacity to protect innocent lives, established them as a force to be reckoned with. Across distant sectors, species reconsidered their perceptions of Earth and its people, acknowledging that humans were now a central player in galactic affairs. The psychological effect of this recognition would influence diplomacy, alliances, and the balance of power for decades to come. As the fleet docked at Earth's orbital stations and crew members began disembarking, there was a collective sense of accomplishment mixed with solemn reflection. The aftermath was not simply about repairs or celebrations. It was about understanding the significance of what had been achieved. Humans had faced extreme danger, overcome nearly impossible odds, and emerged victorious. They had saved countless lives, reshaped perceptions, and demonstrated qualities that no other species had exhibited on such a scale. The reflection on these events highlighted a deeper understanding. Humanity's greatest strength lay not in technology or numbers, but in the resilience, ingenuity, and courage of individuals united in purpose. Earth itself began to change in subtle ways. Governments invested in new defensive infrastructure, taking lessons from the fleet's operations to improve planetary security. Training programs for future generations emphasized not only technical skill but adaptability, problem-solving, and resilience. Cultural narratives shifted, celebrating not just survival but innovation, courage, and cooperation. Humanity began to see itself as part of a larger galactic community, aware that their actions had consequences far beyond their own planet. The aftermath was both a moment of pride and a foundation for the future, shaping a species ready to take its place among the stars. Across the galaxy, the impact of humanity's actions continued to resonate. The civilizations saved by the Deathworlder fleet rebuilt their worlds, strengthened their defenses, and maintained diplomatic ties with Earth. Reports of human strategy, courage, and adaptability spread, influencing galactic military thinking and inspiring a re-evaluation of tactics and alliances. Humans had not only won battles but had also shifted the strategic landscape of the galaxy. Their actions demonstrated that even a species long underestimated could rise to confront overwhelming threats and succeed where others had failed. The reflection phase extended to individual growth as well. Crew members who had faced death, made split-second decisions, and witnessed extraordinary courage returned home with a new understanding of themselves and their species. They carried lessons in leadership, teamwork, and resilience that would inform every future mission. Mentorship programs were established to pass on this knowledge to new recruits, ensuring that the hard-earned experience of the fleet was never lost. This emphasis on learning, adaptation, and preparation became a cornerstone of humanity's ongoing evolution as a galactic power. Ultimately, the aftermath and reflection underscored a fundamental truth: humanity had changed. The SOS response and the subsequent battles revealed the true potential of a species forged by adversity, honed through generations on a death world, and capable of extraordinary courage and ingenuity. The galaxy had witnessed humans not as insignificant beings, but as saviors, strategists, and warriors. The experience left an indelible mark on human society, culture, and strategic thinking. It reinforced the values of resilience, cooperation, and ethical responsibility, shaping a vision for the future where humans could continue to protect, inspire, and lead. The reflection also brought a profound sense of humility. Humans recognized that the victories they had achieved were the result of teamwork, preparation, and the unyielding will to survive. Every life saved, every enemy defeated, and every mission accomplished was a testament to the collective effort of individuals who had endured extreme challenges and risen to meet them. The experience reinforced the understanding that power carried responsibility, and that the lessons of this conflict would guide humanity for generations, shaping not only how they fought but also how they engaged with the galaxy as a whole. Even as celebrations began, the human leaders and fleet commanders continued to plan for the future. They studied the enemy's tactics, analyzed vulnerabilities, and developed strategies to prevent future threats. The aftermath was not a period of rest alone. It was a time of preparation, reflection, and growth. Humans understood that the galaxy was vast, filled with unknown dangers, and that their continued vigilance and ingenuity would be crucial in maintaining security and stability. This ongoing commitment to preparedness ensured that humanity would remain a decisive force, capable of protecting not only themselves but also the broader communities that now looked to them for leadership and support. The Deathworlder fleet, though returning to a period of relative calm, carried with it the memory of the challenges faced and the triumphs achieved. Every crew member, from pilots to engineers, from soldiers to medical personnel, understood the significance of their actions. They had saved lives, reshaped perceptions, and forged a new legacy for humanity. Reflection allowed them to process the enormity of their achievement, acknowledge the sacrifices made, and take pride in the extraordinary capabilities of their species. Humanity had answered the call, faced overwhelming odds, and emerged victorious. The lessons of the aftermath would endure, guiding the fleet, the planet, and the galaxy toward a future where the strength, courage, and ingenuity of humans would never again be underestimated. Asterisk.